So I'm going to do a short presentation on the age of AI in the age of anti-China warfare. I think this is an important concept to understand. And what I mean by this, first we have to understand what AI is. There have been thinkers who have said that cogitation is but computation. I think that's David Hume. But to understand this, to understand the basics, AI is simply applied math because AI is a branch of computer science, which is simply applied math. We have analog computers and digital computers. If we go back to the origins, we have mechanical integrators. They use gears for to calculate the integral calculus. We use the tide calculators, which were critical for the D-Day invasion. And I'll come back to this, the invasion part of this. Soyuz was a mechanical calculator used by the Russians, and it allowed space navigation. The Antikythera was used for the prediction of the movement of astronomical bodies. It is probably the earliest mechanical calculator or computer that we have. And of course, economists may know about the Phillips water machine. This is a water-driven computer that can model the stocks and flows of the economy, especially useful for doing Keynesian economic interventions. So all of this is just analogical modeling. You can think of it, for example, a slide rule is a kind of a computer that uses addition in distance as a way of calculating multiplication. You can do the same thing with electrical circuits. The Ohm's law, voltage equals current times resistance. If you have variable potentiometers, you can calculate math. You can calculate arithmetic using electrical circuits in an analog way. You can even use mason jars or beakers to do division if you wanted to. And of course, there is the old Chinese I Ching, which is a kind of computer. It models stochastic fractal time. But what we're looking at right now are perceptrons, or the development of neural networks, which originally come from perceptrons. They were modeled after a hypothetical idea of the neuron. They were the beginning of neural networks, which formed the basis of modern generative transformers in AI. We also have digital computers, which we can think of as universal Turing machines. Turing machines simply model some aspect of human cognition. You can make a Turing machine out of Lego. You can even make a Turing machine out of chocolate. A Turing machine is simply a mathematical formalism for a digital computer. It's a septuplet, infinite tape, and a state transition rules or state transition diagram. It models everything that is computable using some very simple actions: sequencing, selection, and repetition. Now, it was used, the concepts of these were used for both the bomb computer and the Colossus computer. It was an electromechanical way of code breaking during the war. And once again, I want to come back to this notion that computers were developed for military applications. In fact, they were really considered to be weapons of war. And this goes back to the notion that war is all about engineering. Then the first machines, the lever, the crane, and the pulley, were really machines of war. The circumvallation of Alesia in Gaul was just a massive civil engineering project. The first machines, as I said, were war machines. The first use of the wheel was in a war chariot. The catapult, of course, was a war machine. The helipolis was a war machine. Sambuca, which was one of the first cranes, which created mechanical advantage, was also a war machine. The trebuchet, they used the winch, the pulley, the lever for mechanical advantage to wage war. And the carrobalista used the first torsion spring, which is what we use in the mousetrap. It was a form of mobile projection artillery. And of course, Vitruvius, as a Vitruvian man, were war engineers. All of this is to say that war requires mechanical advantage and efficiency. If you were building in a slave society, you did not need mechanical advantage because you had an endless number of slaves that you could work to death. But in war, that efficiency and mechanical advantage became very, very critical. Killing is a kind of labor. If you will, it's a catabolic labor. And war, the waging of war, requires advantage, mechanical advantage. And we also seek mechanical advantage in cognitive labor. So, for example, when Alan Turing was developing the computer, the concepts behind the computer, these were immediately applied to the military application of code breaking. What we have modern neural networks are modeled on the perceptron, which was a model of the retina at the time in the 50s and 60s. It was developed for target identification and acquisition. In other words, it was to accelerate the killing of human beings. It accelerates decision time. And also, from the genesis of AI, from its very, very early beginnings, it was about automated battle management. The concept or the conceit was, how can we automate battle management so that not only can we do it faster, but that we can continue to kill the enemy even after human life has been wiped out. And this was demonstrated in the film by Kubrick called Dr. Strangelove. Now, sometimes people say, does AI think? Does it feel? Can it make ethical decision? These questions are category mistakes. It's like asking, does a neuron think? Neuron doesn't think, it fires. And so I won't go into this because this is a whole different area, but I just want us to bracket this question and simply understand AI as math. AI can do deductive logic. Computers can do a kind of deductive logic using switches and circuits to model Boolean algebra and then counting and then arithmetic and then computation in general. Neural networks can do pattern recognition, which is say that eventually they can predict patterns, such as predicting the pattern of the next word in a sentence. And this is roughly analogous to a kind of inductive reasoning. But all of this is just math. It's multi-dimensional vector function, matrix algebra, and back propagation. It is simply math. So it's not really a question, is it thinking or not? It's simply doing math. Now, AI is applied in modern warfare, and the US is developing these things to a tremendous extent. It wants decision dominance. It wants to use AI for decision dominance, that is to think faster, to decide faster. It wants predictive analytics. It wants autonomous systems, as we discussed. It wants surveillance. It wants to use AI for wargaming and simulations. It wants to accelerate supply chains. And of course, it wants automated battle management. And we've already seen this demonstrated because Palestine was the first AI assisted genocide. We saw Lavender, Hapsora, Where's Daddy? These were all AI enhanced ways of committing genocide. Of course, this has an ignominious precedent with IBM. The IBM Corporation provided punch cards and punch card tabulators for the accelerated killing of humans in the concentration camps. Fire Factory is another AI program that the Israelis have been using. It cuts the assembling of an attack from hours to minutes and prioritizes, assigns targets, schedules attacks, essentially industrial warfare powered by AI. And we know who the key players are. Yes, we know who the key players are. There's Anduril, they do automated battlefield management systems. They want to create an operation system for war. There's Palantir, which wants to do automated warfare. Alex Karp has said, we are at war with China. We're in an AI arms race. The AI race is a winner take all, and mobilization day was yesterday. The J.D. Vance very recently gave an address around AI, and he said To safeguard America's advantage, the Trump administration will ensure that the most powerful AI systems are built in the US with American design and manufactured chips. This is a kind of a statement or a doctrine of digital unipolar hegemony. It's a digital Wolfowitz doctrine, and it involves block forming and closure of AI technology. They're already working on algorithmic warfare cross-functional teams. And the irony behind this is all of them are lawyers who are planning these things. They don't seem to understand, or in my experience, lawyers are not good mathematicians, although they have the informants among them. DeepSeek is simply better math. It's improved algorithms, mixture of experts, 8-bit numbers, reinforcement learning. Now, I want you to look at these math Olympiads and see if you notice anything. European Olympiad, do you notice anything? This is Australian mathematicians, if you notice anything. And of course, this is the Team USA that won first place in the European Girls Math Olympiad. Look at the last names. This is the DeepSeek research team. If we were to apply our AI pattern recognition qualities, we might notice a pattern here. The thing is, math is a language, and it is absurd to enclose a language. There are no private languages, and enclosure eventually kills. So if we take this and we also feed it back into the understanding that capitalism requires constant growth, and that there is a labor in capitalism. It's the labor is both metabolic, anabolic, and catabolic. War is the catabolic metabolism of capitalism. It's a kind of war against people, against nature, and against the planet. And there's a constant search for efficiency. So you want computational mechanized war. And all of this creates an internet of dangerous things. But the key problem is the role of labor in the age of computational labor. So we're faced with the question of socialism or barbarism once again. It's multipolarity or barbarity. And Marx said that real liberation cannot be accomplished without harnessing machines, that we can take repetitive labor, both cognitive and manual, and harness it and have it done by machines. And we create the social brain, the general intellect, which creates the conditions either for concentration of power or the conditions for material freedom. We have to understand that what DeepSeek does is it opens up the intellectual commons and it gives us an outside chance for liberation. So it opens the commons, returns the means of production of knowledge to the people. It gives a kind of digital sovereignty. And from digital sovereignty, that gives us the means to fight digital feudalism and digital hegemony. So we're faced with a stark choice: enclosure or commons, or capitalism or socialism, or multipolarity or barbarity. Thank you, everybody.